Hey everyone, Chris here with Ignited by Nature and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Athlon Ares G2. This is a 15 to 45 by 65 millimeter spotter geared towards hunters, shooters, and anyone in between who's just looking for an all-around spotting scope that really packs a punch for the weight and the overall price. If you're a Western hunter, backpack hunter, a shooter, you spend a lot of time at the range, this could be a really good option for you. It's got a lot of great build features that other scopes don't have, and it's at a cheaper price point than a lot of other scopes in its class, such as the Maven CS.1A and the Razor 13 to 39 by 56. Those are just two I'm naming off the top of my head, but this scope really packs a punch as far as optical quality goes. It's got UHD glass. It's got an aluminum alloy chassis. It weighs about 45.9 ounces is what their website has it listed at. And on my scale, it weighed 44.53. So it's actually a little bit lighter. Another cool standout feature to this optic is that it has a sunshade. Not a lot of optics in this price range or in this like compact format offer that. I know Kowa does that, but Kowa is, $2,000 plus. As far as the focusing mechanism goes, the focusing mechanism when I first got it was a little stiff, and sometimes it can be a little bit more stiff than other optics, but once you get it started, it rotates very smoothly. Another cool standout feature that this optic has that not a lot of compact spotters have is that it has a rotating collar, and that's really nice for when you're looking down at stuff and you need to get a better angle. You can kind of rotate that collar and just take a look into the scope and get a nice comfortable image. I also like how the magnification wheel is very smooth. It's actually a little bit smoother than the Maven CS.1 in my opinion, and it just works really nicely. It just feels robust when you pick it up. If I pop this off and hold it in my hands, it's very robust feeling. This would make a great range optic, and then it would also not be too bad out in the field. It is heavier than other optics in its class, so keep that in mind. And if you're an ounce weenie, this might not be the scope for you, but if you want something that has really good performance at a good price point, I would say that this is a great option. As far as the overall length goes, it's 11.9 inches, so it's probably one of the larger compact spotting scopes. I wouldn't consider the straight spotting scope version of this compact because it's like 12.5 inches or 12.9, but the compact size is 11.9, so it's just under 12 inches. And for other spotting scopes that are 65 millimeters or 66 millimeters like the Kowa or the ATS, this is quite a bit lighter, and it still packs a pretty good punch optically in my opinion. It's got a rubber armor around it, and it's got some exposed housing as well. Another cool feature that they added to this scope in particular is it has an Arca rail built in. You don't have to attach anything on there. You don't have to worry about a rail coming loose. It's just already on there, and it fits really nicely onto most Arca rails that I've used. This optic is Aragon purged, so it's not nitrogen purged. Now, as far as the close focusing distance goes, the close focusing on this one is 13.1 feet. So if you're really wanting to do some wildlife photography, or you do birding, you might want to look at some other options, but 13.1 feet is still pretty close. And for most large animals, if you're getting that close to them, you're pretty skilled. Now, as far as the field of view goes, you get 171 feet at 1,000 yards at 15 power, and then when you zoom into 45 power, you get 81 feet at 1,000 yards. You also have an eye relief of 16 to 19 millimeters, so it's very competitive with the Maven and specs. If you're looking at this or the Maven CS.1A, I would say that their eye cups are very similar. They're very smooth. They feel high end. I was really impressed with the overall build quality of this optic. I just think for the price point and the optical quality that you're getting out of this optic, I think this is going to be a great option for a lot of people. Another cool standout feature that Athlon has for this scope in particular is that you can actually get an eyepiece that's a fixed 22 power mil spec eyepiece So you can basically have a rangefinder out in the range with your optic. And then when you want something lighter, you want to switch it out, you just throw on the regular 15 to 45 eyepiece and you have that option as well. You're going to have to pay a little bit extra money for that extra eyepiece, but that is a cool little feature-rich option that you do have if you do want to spend the extra money to get that eyepiece. You have a range optic, and then you have an optic for, you know, hunting or something like that. As far as image quality goes, I would say that the image quality on this is pretty good. You have a very sharp image at the lower magnifications, and then as you move up to that 45 power, you might notice some color fringing along the backs of animals or things like that, but that's mostly in low light situations. I would say that in most situations, this optic performs neck and neck with the Maven CS.1A. I just noticed that the Maven was a little bit more clear, especially when I looked at some eye charts and things like that. And if you want to check those comparisons out, definitely check out my comparison where I show you the Athlon versus the Maven CS.1A. In that video, I basically do some comparison footage and I let you see the difference in image quality by looking at eye charts and, you know, looking at animals at different ranges. So you get to see that in that video. Now, I would say that like the Maven, this optic basically performs really well in that 15 to 35 power range. And then as you move up to 40 and 45 power, that's when you're going to see the image soften a little bit and you're going to get, you know, just a less clear image overall. Now, in that 15 to 35 power range, I feel like the overall edge clarity seems really nice. It's honestly really hard to pick out the differences between this optic and the Maven CS.1A. What you're getting out of this optic for the price point is really good as far as edge clarity and as far as the overall sharpness. And I would say that in most situations, the color is neutral. I did find that in some situations, this was a little bit more warm than something like the Maven as far as color goes. And as far as chromatic aberration goes, I feel like in most situations, it handles that chromatic aberration very well. However, like in those lower light settings, like first light or last light, you do start to see some chromatic aberration and some, you know, color fringing along the edges of things when you zoom into those higher powers. But overall, optically, it performed really well in my opinion. One area where this optic really shined as far as digiscoping and even just looking through the optic is when you're zoomed into that higher magnification. This focus wheel, although it's stiff, it had a lot more forgiveness as far as adjustments go. So when I was focusing in on an animal, you know, when I'm rotating this and trying to focus in on something, it's a lot more forgiving, whereas something like the Maven CS.1A, although the focus wheel is smoother, I felt like it was a lot harder at those higher magnifications to focus in at something because it was just more touchy. At 15 power, you do have a 4.3 millimeter exit pupil, and then when you zoom down to 45 or zoom up to 45 power, you're actually getting a 1.4 millimeter exit pupil. So that's where this optic is going to fall short. And if you really care about that, you're going to want to go with like something like an 80 or an 85 or a 95 or a 99 millimeter objective. That's going to bring in more light and you're going to get a brighter image at low light. So for people trying to get low light footage of like deer stepping out of the brush or wherever they're bedded, or elk stepping out of the timber, you're going to want to go with a larger objective lens. So who is this scope for? I think this scope is great for hunters, long range shooters, people who spend a lot of time out at the range and want an optic that they can use at the range, that want an interchangeable eyepiece with a mill reticle. I think that's a great option for those type of people. And then it's also going to be a great option for people that are just looking to upgrade to something with a little bit higher image quality and are still not wanting to spend, you know, $1,000 or even more on an optic and want to stay under $1,000. I think this is a great option for you. On the flip side, I would say that this optic is not for those people who expect top tier quality. It's not for people who want edge to edge clarity all throughout the zoom range. And I think it's not for people who are ounce counting weenies, right? So if you really want something that's really light, I would spend the extra money and go with like something like a Swaro or a Koa, or just look at some of those cheaper Vortex options that are more lightweight. And that's going to be a scope that's probably more in your wheelhouse. So in the end, is this optic perfect? No. But is it absolutely a great value? I would say yes. I think it's a great option for a lot of people who do not want to spend a lot of money but still want a lot of high quality features in a compact format. All right, so that about sums everything up. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay connected to the wild. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel for more outdoor gear reviews and adventures, and also leave a comment below. What do you think about the Athlon Ares G2? And also, what scopes do you recommend in this price point? Is there anything that I've missed or haven't covered? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Once again, my name is Chris with Ignited by Nature, and until next time, guys and gals.